All right, welcome to this strategic briefing. Today, we are diving deep into the technical evolution of Hezbollah's arsenal. And this isn't just about counting weapons. We're talking about a fundamental shift in military capability and what that means for regional security. So to really get a handle on the scale of this change, let's rewind a little bit. Back in 2006, Hezbollah's entire arsenal was estimated at around 15,000 rockets. And at the time, believe me, that number was seen as pretty formidable. It really defined the threat landscape of that era. Okay, now fast forward to today. That number hasn't just grown, it has absolutely exploded by a factor of 10. We're now looking at estimates of over 150,000 projectiles. This kind of exponential growth, it signals a massive strategic shift and sets the stage for a completely different kind of fight. But here's the crucial part. This is not just about having more rockets, not even close. What we're actually witnessing is a total transformation in quality. We've seen an evolution from what was a guerrilla force into a technologically sophisticated hybrid army, one that's capable of pulling off some incredibly complex, multi-layered operations. So, let's break this down layer by layer. The first layer of this threat is built on a simple but honestly brutally effective principle. You just overwhelm your enemy's defenses with sheer, unrelenting volume. It's the strategy of saturation. And check this out. This is what I'm talking about. Look at the change in launch tempo. In 2006, the maximum daily rocket fire was maybe 160. Today, the assessment is that they could sustain a barrage of at least 3,000 rockets per day. That just completely changes the defensive math. Now, we all know about Israel's Iron Dome air defense system. It's world-class, boasting about a 90% success rate. And you hear 90% and you think, that's amazing, right? Well, it is. But in a saturation attack, that incredible success rate creates a really dangerous dilemma. A 10% penetration rate against a wave of 3,000 rockets? That still means 300 projectiles could get through in a single day. And this right here, this is where the economic strategy comes into play. It is all about asymmetry. Each one of those defensive interceptors costs around $50,000. The unguided rockets they're shooting down, they can cost as little as a few $100. So you're forcing the defender to burn through incredibly expensive, limited stock interceptors to stop cheap, mass-produced rockets. It's a strategy designed to bleed an enemy dry financially. But listen, the threat isn't just about saturation from the air. That's only part of the picture. The next layer of this arsenal gets way more personal. It's designed to specifically target the very core of a ground force's power, its modern armored vehicles. So, to really understand this threat, we have to talk about the defense first. Israel's main battle tanks, the Merkavas, are equipped with something called the Trophy Active Protection System, or APS. Just think of it like a personal force field for the tank, engineered to detect and literally vaporize incoming threats in milliseconds. So, you see the problem this creates, right? It poses a huge tactical question for any attacker. How in the world do you get past a shield that can swat a missile right out of the sky? Well, the answer is pretty clever. You exploit a mechanical limitation. The Tharo-Loss system uses a dual launcher to fire two anti-tank missiles in incredibly rapid succession. The first missile is basically bait. It triggers the trophy system, which intercepts it. But then, for about 1.5 seconds, the system has to reload, and that's when the second missile, flying right behind, hits the now defenseless tank. And they often combine this 1-2 punch tactic with another piece of tech, the tandem warhead. See, a lot of modern tanks use what's called explosive reactive armor, basically bricks of explosives that detonate outward to disrupt an incoming missile. Well, a tandem warhead has two charges. The first, smaller charge, sets off that reactive armor, and the second, main charge, penetrates the now exposed hull. All right, so we've covered saturation from above and armor killers on the ground. But this brings us to the third and most dynamic layer, and this is where the battlefield just completely opens up, moving from a 2D plane into a much more complex, three-dimensional space. Think about a tank, like a turtle, right? It has this incredibly thick shell on the front and sides. But the top armor, historically, that's always been its soft underbelly. And modern anti-armor tactics are now built specifically to exploit this vertical weakness. And this has led to a really sophisticated, layered anti-armor strategy. You're not just facing one kind of threat. You're facing long-range, laser-guided Cornet missiles for standoff attacks, nimble FPV drones for precision strikes on weak points like sensors. And then you have the Almas missile, which is designed specifically for these top-down attacks. Now, this Almas missile is a really big deal. And get this, it's a reverse-engineered copy of Israel's own Spike missile. It's designed to fly up and then dive straight down onto a target. This top attack not only hits the weakest armor, but can also bypass the detection zones of some active protection systems. And the newer versions, they can be launched from drones, reaching out as far as 16 kilometers. So, let's pull all these threads together. What does this all actually mean when you put it all on the map? What are the big takeaways for the strategic landscape? Well, for starters, this kind of offensive power forces a total change in defensive thinking. You can't just sit back and rely on interceptors anymore. The threat of losing high-value assets, combined with the difficult terrain of southern Lebanon and the use of tunnels to move weapons around, it all demands a much more proactive, maneuver-based defense. Ultimately, the fundamental math of the battlefield has changed. It's now a constant tug of war between an offensive strategy built on systematic, multi-domain attrition and a defensive strategy that has to rely on maneuver and breaking up enemy formations just to survive. And all this leaves us in the middle of a high-stakes technological chess match. It really poses one critical forward-looking question. As these asymmetric offensive threats continue to get smarter and more complex, can the next generation of defenses, like the much-anticipated Iron Beam laser system, actually keep pace? And that concludes our briefing for today.